Drones, my flying companions. They've changed the way we see the world, and today it's all about choices. The brand new DJI Air 3 versus Mavic 3 Pro. Big price difference, but is bigger always better? Let's get to the chopper. Before the battle begins, we need to ensure our gladiators are at their best. For the Mavic 3 Pro, we're going D-Log for the most dynamic range. On the Air 3, there is only D-Log M, a bit less dynamic range, but still better than many other drones. And we get the same codec in this profile as on the Mavic 3 Pro, our beloved 10-bit 420. Grades well and edits well. To let the Air 3 look a tech better, set the sharpness to -2 in the camera menu, because digital sharpness, no thank you. If it's too soft for you, -1 works as well, but I leave it at -2. And noise reduction at -1, it's the sweet spot, trust me. -2 looks too noisy, especially on a 3x lens. Our Mavic 3 Pro, we're keeping her as she is, cause there are no such settings. So it's time to do some comparisons. Let's compare the wide-angle lenses first. The Mavic 3 Pro flaunts a 20 megapixel sensor, whereas the Air 3's smaller yet stacked BSI sensor holds 12 megapixels. Now, you might think, hey, bigger is better, right? Usually yes, but let's not be so fast. The Air 3 holds its ground amazingly, and honestly, in most shots, few could spot the difference. Remember my beloved Fujifilm X-H2S? That's actually what I'm shooting on right now. Smaller, APS-C sensor, but it messes with and even outperforms most full-frame cameras. That's because of those stacked sensors. They are powerful, they read faster, allowing to pull more data in the same time, what leads to a higher dynamic range, proving that less can indeed yield more. And the DJI Air 3 has the secret weapon as well, just with an even smaller sensor. The way how they use the stacked sensor seems different though. Fujifilm uses the fast readout speed to read 14 bits to get a higher dynamic range, while DJI's website sounds like they read multiple exposures from the sensor and put them together to an HDR video. That's why people that say that bigger sensors are always better should think twice. Now there is another aspect. The Mavic 3's sensors pixels are bigger, so they gather more light. But therefore the Air 3 comes back with a larger f1.7 aperture, what lets in more light, compensating beautifully. But how does it translate to the real world? If we compare the dynamic range of both drones, the Mavic 3 Pro is the clear winner, but it's not as big of a difference considering that you can pull the shadows of the Air 3 up in the color grade and apply some noise reduction to get quite similar results. It's actually pretty close. Overall, the result is no surprise, as D-Log M can't hold as much dynamic range as D-Log, and even stacked sensors can only do so much. But to be honest, for most situations the dynamic range of the Air 3 is pretty good. It's just in extreme situations where you'd really notice the difference. In my cloudy test shots here, for example, you won't notice it at all. A point that you will only notice when you watch closely on big screens is the detail. The Mavic 3 Pro has bigger pixels, and that's noticeable on my 27-inch screen if I look closely, but I also know that most people wouldn't notice that in the final video, so that matters more for professionals. In terms of low light, I tested it both in normal video mode, in D-Log and D-Log M, and in night mode, which uses the normal picture profile. I set the shutter speed to 1/50s instead of 1/25s, what DJI uses by standard, because 1/25s give too much motion blur, and the results, well, I wouldn't really want to use any of them, but as you might have expected, the Mavic 3's camera performs slightly better. The Mavic looks sharper and crisper, while the Air 3 is a bit soft. Now, you could use the shots from both cameras if you absolutely need them for storytelling, but for good night shots, I would rather shoot hyperlapses with high shutter speeds and low ISOs, because these small cameras are just not made for low light video in my opinion. I must say though that it's also a very hard low-light test. You would certainly get better results in city centers or anywhere there is more light overall, so it's a pretty tough test here for both drones. There's one more aspect that's better on the Mavic 3 line though, and that is the adjustable aperture, what makes exposing your shots much easier. On the Air 3, that's not the case. They give you a shutter speed of up to 16,000 to compensate for the larger aperture, but in my opinion, ND filters are a must for the Air 3. Although I would recommend ND filters for the Mavic 3 Pro as well, because even f11 is not always enough to keep the shutter speed twice the frame rate, but you at least don't have to land the drone to change exposure for filming in another direction. So on the Air 3 you will inevitably expose via shutter sooner or later, what means that you will have to add motion blur in post. It's not a big issue, motion blur is only important if you fly close to something in my opinion, but it's worth mentioning here. Let's come to the zoom lenses. Our Mavic 3 Pro does bring a 7x zoom lens into the ring that the Air 3 lacks, but to be honest, the 3x, it's just right for most shots. The quality of the 7x zoom lens is not that good anyway, it only really looks good under certain conditions, so I don't really worry about that. Aside from that, the 3x cameras are exactly the same on the Mavic 3 Pro and the Air 3, same sensor and the same aperture, so no difference here. Talking about weight, both aren't exactly featherweights, but at 720 gram the Air 3 is the lighter contender with 958 gram for the Mavic 3 Pro. Easy on the rules, especially in the U, plus it's a bit quieter, less noise, more peace for you and everyone around. I don't really care, to be honest. I usually don't fly in cities, but it might be important for some of you. Viewing it from the angle of carrying around, I don't find the weight difference a decision-making factor. Yes, the Air 3 is lighter, but together with 3 batteries and the charging hub, you likely won't notice the difference in your bag. A clear plus for the Air 3 in my opinion though is actually the multi-battery charger, because it isn't just a charger, it's kind of a power hero on your travels, because it got this power accumulation function, a lifesaver if there is the last shot you see on a trip after already flying your 3 batteries, and it acts as a power bank in case you don't fly that much. Perfect travel gadget. And for the people complaining about DJI not including a power adapter with the Air 3, getting a new USB-C charger with every product is just unnecessary. Just get one of those 100-watt chargers here. I got one from Ugreen. It has 3 USB-C PD charging ports and 1 USB Type-A. So that one charger charges all of my devices already for about 2 years. MacBook, cameras, drones, Apple Watch. You only need one of those chargers and they last forever. Here, SkyRC B6 Neo has a USB-C port. With that, I can even charge my FPV LiPo batteries using this Ugreen charger in conjunction. So why would you need a new charger with every product? Gallium nitrate, baby. Welcome to the future. So let's wrap this up. $1,099 for the DJI Air 3 versus $2,199 for the Mavic 3 Pro, or $1,599 for the DJI Air 3 combo with 3 batteries and charger and a bag versus $2,999 for the Mavic 3 Pro combo. Big numbers, a few differences, but does $1,100 more mean $1,100 more value? Well, it depends. If you're a professional shooting for clients, needing the best quality and dynamic range, then yes, the $1,100 are totally justified, and I would probably pay even more for the Mavic 3 Pro Cine to get that ProRes recording in that case. However, if you're a hobbyist, a content creator, or someone who just gets started professionally, I think that the DJI Air 3 does everything that you really need. And it does everything quite good, to be honest. So in that case, the $1,100 are not justified. Now, I'm actually switching over to the Air 3 because I wanted to get a second battery for my Mavic 3 Pro to shoot more hyperlapses, etc. But that would cost me about $250 here in Thailand. But if I sell the Mavic 3 Pro and get the Air 3 combo, I have 3 instead of 2 batteries, and I will probably get about $150 on top. So $400 more in my bank account in total compared to buying a second Mavic 3 battery. and I get more flight time. Of course, there will be situations where I wish I had the Mavic 3 Pro, but that won't happen that often, so the 3 batteries are more valuable for what I'm doing. Also worth mentioning is that feature-wise, both drones are quite the same. They both have all the quick shots, tracking, waypoints, hyperlapses, etc. So you're not really missing out on anything in that regards with either one. So that's why I'm swapping my Mavic 3 Pro for the DJI Air 3. You have to decide for yourself, of course, but don't forget, at the end it's not about the drone, it's about what you do with it. So make every shot count, and I see you in the next video. Bye!